Hey pen friends, it's Kaitlin. Welcome back to another cozy journaling chat. I am back from my trip and I thought the best way to kick things off with you, since it's been a couple of weeks, would be to go over the changes that I'm bringing into my analog system for Q4. So think of this as, I guess, a Q4 analog update, if you will. This will be the last update of this year before moving into 2026. And I think a lot of these changes will kind of influence how I structure my books and my system next year. So I think this will be a nice little sneak preview into what I am thinking moving forward into the new year. What I'm thinking we'll do for this is I will just go through each book individually, talk about if anything has changed or if there's any updates I want to share with you. And I think that's how we're going to navigate the bulk of this video. So without further ado, let's get started. And I think we will begin with probably the notebook that changed the least. This is my Passport Traveler's Notebook in Camel. I started the year using this as a planner or a bullet journal, which is how I like to plan, and I am still using it as a planner / bullet journal. I believe the latest update I gave you on this is I switched from a 64-page insert in one of my books to an 80-page insert, and that is going really well. I'm really liking having the extra space. Nothing in this book has really changed in terms of setup, but I thought it would be cool to show you how the archive is looking for this now that I have completed 3 inserts, since I will swap out my kind of daily or quarterly book every quarter, so every 3 months. This is the archive binder I have from Traveler's Notebook, and as you can see I have, well, actually it's a little hard, but let me do this and it might help. As you can see, I have 3 inserts in there. So the first 2 from quarter 1 and quarter 2, so January to July. These are 64-page notebooks. If you can see, if I show you closely, you can see like there's random pages sticking out of them, and that's because I ran out of pages in these inserts and I had to stick them in, which is why I moved to the 80-page, which you can see right here. So comparing the two, the 80-page is a little thicker, but it's not too significant. These inserts are all by Good Impressions, by the way, but you can see the archive binder is getting fairly full. I will, at the end of this quarter, December, have 2 inserts to add in here. My annual book, which I'm going to slot in the front, and then my quarter 4 book, which I have a band, I guess this isn't a band, it's a aluminum rod or a steel rod here in the back. So I'll have this binder full at the end of the year, which is kind of nice. And I need to figure out how I want to, and if I want to decorate it. I think I do. I get a lot of indecision with stickers. So if you have any ideas or any that you've seen with these archive binders that have a really nice design, feel free to tag me and send them my way. But yeah, this is the binder. It is already quite thick, so I am thinking of removing the covers on my quarterly books and just having the cover on my annual book, just so that it helps everything fit a little better, because I think it would be nice to be able to kind of flip through this like an actual kind of archive binder. But once I have them all in there, we shall see. But this is kind of the archive that's been building as I've been using this book. And since this is my first full year using my planner and not changing it in any way, it's the first time I've actually been able to fill a binder like this, which is really cool. So it's kind of nice to see how the archive has kind of built up over the last couple months, especially with quarter 3. I feel like that was kind of the big one, filling this one up. But yeah, planner is going well. Archive, I'll be getting this all closed off by the end of the year, which is exciting, and I'll show you that as well once I decide on a design. But yeah, no real changes with this one. Still going quite well, and I am planning to probably use something like this next year. I don't like to buy stuff for 2026 too far in advance, but the one thing that I do like to buy in advance, just because it takes a lot of time to ship to Toronto, are the inserts that I use for my quarterly books, which are by Good Impressions. I like to leave myself a 2-month buffer from order time to when I need them, just because the shipping does take a while. So I did already order 4 of my 80-page booklets for next year in anticipation that I'll probably be using those in the same way. But yeah, this is the planner, and for Q4 specifically, it's been going quite well. All right, so moving on to my other traveler's notebook. Unlike my passport, this one has changed a bit since you've seen it last. This is my regular traveler's notebook in camel. I've had this notebook for, I think, 4 years now, this cover. So I don't know, it ages so beautifully. I say this every time as well. It's why I love the traveler's notebook, especially kind of having a very limited number of covers so they can really patina and age with you. But this one is 4 years old. I think this one is 2 or 3 years old, so it's a little younger. This was my first traveler's notebook, actually. So because of that, and I'll talk about this for my 2026 analog system, but in general, this year I found that it's really important for me to prioritize using traveler's notebooks in my notebook system, not only because the system works well for me, but just because it makes me really happy being able to use these every day. I don't like them just sitting on my shelf not being used. It makes me feel kind of sad, a little bit guilty, so I do like to always find ways to use these. And this year, this one has really kind of changed purposes a lot, and in Q4 it also did change purposes slightly, so I'll show that to you. I think the last time I showed you this notebook, I told you I was gonna make it my thinking book, and I did start using it that way. I'll pop some footage above of what that looked like. But tragically, I had brought my thinking book insert booklet to work one day, and my dog actually got into my backpack after work and completely destroyed the insert, which of all my notebooks, honestly, the thinking book, it's not a big deal. It's really just a space for like messy notes and thoughts, so it wasn't, you know, an emotionally catastrophic situation. But because I don't have a lot of spare inserts lying around, I didn't have another insert to use for that purpose. That was exactly the same. So as I was looking through my kind of archive of regular inserts, I did find this Good Impressions one I had lying around, which is a 60-page. It's the same specs as my passport size. It has the 4mm grid cream paper that I love. And I got the idea of actually, instead of using this as a thinking book, because at the time, I think I might have told you this, I was trialing that as a thinking book, and I was also trialing a notebook as a thinking book, just to see what kind of format worked for me. And both of those were kind of inserts that I had lying around, so it was easy to kind of pull those out and test for that purpose. But I had this book, and I thought to myself, maybe this would be a nice space to have my lists, which I started due to reading Getting Things Done. So I have my kind of next action lists, which are very important to my planning system as they kind of help ground me in what I need to do. So I actually ended up starting to use this notebook for my next action lists. I'll show you my home one. I do split it into home or personal and then work, just so that I don't have everything kind of combined into one. This is my home one. It's literally a list. It's really nothing special, but I started to trial putting the lists in this notebook because previously I was just using an old A6 Stalogy, which was fine. But again, after shifting my thinking book out of this notebook, I wanted to find a purpose to still use my traveler's notebook. And I found that the format of the regular traveler's notebook being so narrow worked quite well for this, because my lists tend to be one line, but I have a lot of them, as you can see. So yeah, this has been working really well. I've been really enjoying this. I quite like how now My kind of planning system is both my traveler's notebooks. I have my lists in here and then my more scheduled plans in here, which is quite nice. And yeah, this has been working well and I've been enjoying it. So I think I will continue doing this until the foreseeable future, but that is what's going on in here. So it did change a little bit, although partly due to a canine catastrophe. Speaking of thinking books, I will show you what I am using as my thinking book. And that is this book right here. This is an A5 Stalogy 365-day notebook. It is just their standard notebook that they offer in the A5 size. It comes with 368 pages, so it's quite a chunky book. I actually use this book, if you see here, for like, I think notes in my master's program. So it was a partly used notebook, but I had some pages in the back, which I decided I would use to trial this as a thinking book. And let me see what I can show you. Yeah, maybe I'll just do this page. I do combine work and personal in here, so I can't show you everything just because my work is quite private, but this is literally just a space where I jot down my thoughts. It's kind of like a working space. It's a space for processing things. If there's something I need to do, I will write it here and then I will process it into either my next action list or schedule it if it's time bound. If I have notes, I will write that there. And then again, if it's kind of a temporary note, I don't need anymore, I won't do anything. If it's a note that I need to reference, again, I kind of move it to the appropriate place. So it really is this kind of interim space to transport information where it needs to be. I've heard this term on the internet a couple times, but I think probably another way you could describe this is as a capture tool. So it's where kind of I capture everything that I need to in terms of information, tasks, notes, and then it gets shuffled off to where it should live in its appropriate place. And I find that's been working quite well. I've been really liking this format as a thinking book. For how I like to think, I like how the binding of the Stalogy is quite laid flat and it just kind of lays open on my table, on my desk, and then I just jot things down super easily. I am using this Energel pen for writing things down, which I quite like. And then if I have kind of moved something over to the appropriate place, what I do is I use a highlighter and highlight over the item, just so that I have a bit of a visual cue to know what has been processed, what is still kind of an open item that needs to be kind of evaluated and determined where it goes, or do I not need that thing anymore, and I can kind of highlight it to show that it's been dealt with. But yeah, this is super simple. I quite like this book, and I'm thinking that I will probably get another one for next year for this purpose. This notebook, I've literally I've gone through all the pages. I'm scouring this book for remaining pages and I'm running out, but I'm determined to use this until December so that I can have a new book for the new year. So then I can kind of have one thinking book per year. I think that would just be super neat and tidy, and we'll see. I'm running out of space, but I'm gonna try to hold on until end of December. But yeah, this is my thinking book. I'm quite liking it. Oh, I'll also show I do use my Hobonichi pencil board in here, mostly as a page marker, which I quite like. This is from a couple years ago, and I don't think they make it anymore, but it's the Sol lighter pencil board. And yeah, this is a new book I added to my system that I am quite enjoying. All right, the final book. This one is kind of a bit of a throwback, but if any of you were here in February, you might recognize this book. I did purchase a 5-year in February. I started using it, then I completely fell off, and then in September of this year, I decided to try to pick it back up again and see if it was actually something I would enjoy for kind of daily journaling and kind of capturing memories. So in September, let's see, I think it was like the 2nd. yeah, the second I picked this up and started using it again. Let me find a page to show you. That's kind of fun. Okay, so here's an example. This is a more fun page. Usually there's no stickers or anything on the right, but I thought this would be a good one to show. But yeah, since the second, I have been picking this up and consistently using it. Today is, I believe, November the 7th, and I am in the process of kind of backfilling this because I didn't bring it on my trip to Spain. So I'm on the 15th. When I got back, I realized I was a bit behind and I hadn't journaled since October 6th. So we are slowly working our way up to being caught up. The great thing about this book is it is so easy to catch up, which I've been really enjoying. I will sit down and write kind of, you know, between 3 to 7 entries at a time, which I quite like. And yeah, it's been nice to kind of use this book again. I quite like the short sentences, and it's been really, really nice. So this has been quite a nice kind of rediscovery, and I've really fallen in love with this type of book for memory keeping and for kind of daily journaling. It's very approachable and it's very easy to kind of catch up with and be consistent with, especially when life gets really busy. I think this year, this kind of helped me realize that when it comes to journaling, I'm not the kind of person who wants to have pages upon pages of daily journal spreads. That does not make me super happy. I think that this is a much better way to kind of capture those daily moments. And then what I am planning to do for my Spain trip, just because I have so much more detail I want to capture than what I can write in these daily spaces. And I'll show you one of my Spain entries. This was, for example, one where I wrote, "This was our first day in Barcelona. Arrived in Barcelona at 9:30 in the morning, walked to the beach and visited the Maritime Museum. The constant movement and sunlight helped keep us awake. Ended the day with a lovely dinner at Sensi," which is Sensi Bistro. If you ever go to Barcelona, it's one of my favorite restaurants there that I've discovered. It's quite good, but this is a nice little kind of capture of the day. I get a gist of what happened, but there's so much more information that could be recorded here. I keep quite detailed notes when I travel on what I eat, specific things I found interesting if I'm touring a museum, and kind of more in-depth notes like that. So I am thinking, in addition to this, once I get all caught up with my 5-year, because that is the priority, I will kind of start a separate travel journal to capture all those details in a daily journal format in my regular traveler's notebook. And I think it's funny because that was actually my plan back in February, and then I decided, no, I love daily journaling in my traveler's notebook. I want to keep that up, but I do think that this is actually a bit more of a sustainable practice for me. And yeah, we are working on filling this up to catch up. So we are all caught up to the current date in November. And then once I'm done that, I might start a little travel journal for Spain, which will be kind of fun. Good place to capture and dump all the ephemera as well, which will be great. But yes, a bit of a tangent there. I am back to using my 5-year and quite enjoying it as well. So in terms of the books I do have for this Q4, we have the A5 Style Years of Thinking book, the A6 5-year, which is my memory keeper, and then my regular and passport traveler's notebook. All right, and that is the end of all the updates I wanted to share with you for Q4. I'm thinking in the next video I will talk a little bit about some ideas and plans I have for 2026. It's definitely becoming that transition period where all the videos, or maybe most of the videos going forward, are going to be kind of geared towards New Year stuff, which I always love to see, so I hope you're excited as well. And besides that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everyone.